Hi, friends, and welcome back to Nourish with Regina, where we talk about transforming your plate and transforming your life. If you are new here, I'm Regina, a certified nutrition coach, wife, mama of four grown children, and I've been on this lifelong journey to a healthier lifestyle, and I want to share what I have learned with you. Today's episode is one that I think everyone needs to hear because we're talking about something that can make or break your health journey. And what this is how do you actually build healthy habits that last? How do you change our internal voice and self talk? Not for a week, not for January, not for the Monday reset, but for real life and sustainable change. Because if you've ever said things like, I know what to do, I just can't stay consistent, or I do really well for a while and then I fall off. Or why can't I just stick with it? You are absolutely not alone. And honestly, this is one of the biggest struggles I see in the health space. Not because people don't care, not because people are lazy, not because they lack information, but because we've been taught to chase the motivation instead of learning how to make small, sustainable changes and building repeatable patterns. Those two things are not the same. So today I want to have a real conversation with you, not 10 hacks to fix your life conversation, not just being more disciplined conversation, a real conversation about why motivation fades, why habits can feel so hard, and how your nervous system plays a role in consistency. How to rebuild trust with yourself if you've fallen off more times than you can count. I want to say this right at the beginning because I think some people need to hear it before we go any further. You do not need perfection to change your lifestyle. You need repetition. You need grace. You need small, steady choices that you can actually keep making day after day. And if you've been stuck in a cycle of start strong, burn out, quit, feel guilty, start over, I think today's episode is going to bring you some relief. Because the goal is not to become a different person overnight. The goal is to become someone who lives in a different pattern. And that happens slowly. It happens intentionally, and it can absolutely happen for you. I have started and failed so many diets. I would get a new book or read about a new program or hear something or watch something online, and I get so excited and motivated and I'm all in. And then after a few weeks, the excuses start sneaking in. I feel deprived. I feel frustrated. I feel overwhelmed. You know the cycle. It wasn't until I made the decision that I wasn't going to diet again, but I changed my perspective of health, of eating, of looking at the way I'm nourishing my body. That's when I noticed real change starting to take place. So let's start with motivation because this is where so many people start and build their health journey. And it's why so many people end up feeling like they failed. Motivation can be powerful. Motivation is also temporary. And I think most of us know that if we're being honest. Motivation is what gets you excited, it's what gets you started, it's what makes you buy the planner, order the groceries, sign up for the gym, make the list, clean out the pantry, meal prep for a whole week, and say, this time I'm really going to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Motivation can be a beautiful spark. But the problem is, a lot of people are trying to build a lifelong health journey on a feeling that was never designed to carry them long term. Because motivation changes. It rises and falls based on our sleep, our stress, hormones, workload, emotions, seasons of life, unexpected things that pop up. And if your plan only works when you feel highly motivated, then your plan is too fragile for real life. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means the structure and the systems need to change. And I think this is where a lot of people especially get discouraged because they'll say, I was doing so good. And I always want to gently ask, what do you mean by good? Because often doing good means tracking perfectly, meal prepping perfectly, not eating anything off plan, working out hard every day, being super disciplined. And then life happens, and we all know that. You have a busy week, a stressful season, a sick kid, you have to travel, exhaustion, hormones, emotional overwhelm. Real life happens. And suddenly, that highly structured version of healthy becomes impossible to maintain. So, what happens then? You stop. You feel like you failed. You completely disconnect from the habits. You shame yourself and you look at it as a defeat. And that's the trap. Because when your definition of success is too rigid, consistency becomes nearly impossible. And this is why I want to reframe something for you today. The healthiest people I know are not the people who are motivated all the time. They are the people that have learned how to keep showing up, even when motivation is low. And that's a skill, not intensity, not perfection, not all in or all or nothing, but the ability to stay connected to your habits, even in imperfect seasons. That's what changes your life. And honestly, this is something I've had to learn to do because if you've listened to this podcast before, for any length of time, you'll know I'm a person who loves structure. I love plans. I love fresh starts. I love a clean reset. I love habits. But over time, I've learned that health cannot depend on me always being the most organized, motivated, put together version of myself because life doesn't always give us that version. And if your habits only work when life is easy, they're not really habits yet. They're conditions. And that's a very different thing. So, one of the biggest mindset shifts I want to take you to this episode is motivation is a spark, and it's a good thing, but habits are the structure. And when you stop expecting motivation to carry you, you can finally start building something that lasts. And that's where mindset comes in. Because mindset is different. Mindset is not, do I feel like doing this today? Mindset says, what do I believe about who I am, what this process means, and what I do when life gets hard? And that's deeper. It's rooted. And that's what changes everything. So let's really separate these two because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. Motivation will say, I want to do this. And mindset says, I'm becoming someone who keeps showing up. That's different. Motivation says, I'm excited about this right now. Where mindset says, even when I'm not excited, I know that this matters and it's important. Motivation says, I will start when I feel ready. Mindset says, I don't need perfect feelings to make a healthy choice. I mean, how many of us has planned and prepped and calendared down till Monday, or Sunday, whatever day you believe your week starts on, to start that new diet or that new habit or that new something? You don't have to wait till Monday. Motivation will say, I was doing great until I messed up. Where mindset says, one hard day does not erase the person I'm becoming. That's the shift. And honestly, that mindset shift is what makes healthy habits sustainable. And it's so powerful. The way we talk to ourselves and the internal dialogue and the conversations we have with ourselves can be powerful. And I want all of you to experience that. These habits and this healthy lifestyle to be sustainable are built by someone who's slowly learning how to think differently. You're going to think about your body differently. You're going to think about your habits differently. You're going to think about the food you eat differently. Your mindset shapes how you interpret setbacks, how you talk to yourself, whether you keep going after a hard day, whether you believe change is even possible for you, whether your habits come from punishment or care and love. And that matters so, so much. I used to get really frustrated and blame, I just say, my body's just broken. I'm doing all these things and I don't lose a pound. So it has to be, my body just doesn't work right. It's just, this is just how it's going to be. And this kind of mindset was rooted in a very negative place. So if your mindset is still rooted in all or nothing thinking, shame, perfectionism, I blew it, I'll start over Monday, I just need to be more disciplined, my body's broken, then even the best nutrition plan in the world is not going to work for you. It's going to feel too exhausting because you're not just trying to change your food, you're trying to change the entire way you relate to yourself. And that's deep work, but it's good work and it's absolutely possible. So if you're listening and you're thinking, okay, I get it, but how do I actually change my mindset? I want to make it really practical. And I want to let you know, maybe grab a piece of paper and a pen because I have a few questions for you. And I also, you might want to jot some of this down to reflect back on later. Because I feel like this is a new way of thinking about our health and our life and our habits that a lot of us haven't thought about before. Mindset can work a little differently. It can sound vague at times, like just think better thoughts. And obviously, that is not helpful. It's like when you go to the doctor and they're like, well, just reduce your stress. I asked my doctor once, I said, do you have like a 10-step program on how to do that? Because just saying reduce your stress, I don't know how to do that. So I want to be a little more direct and a little more poignant with how we're going to change our mindset. So let's talk about what mindset change actually looks like in real life, because it usually doesn't happen in one giant breakthrough moment. It usually happens in small repeated moments where you begin to choose intentionally a new thought process and a new response to the things we say to ourselves and a new way of seeing yourself. That's how it changes. Slowly, repeatedly, and gracefully. And honestly, that's how all lasting change and transformation work. So the first step in your mindset change is becoming aware of the thoughts that are already running your habits. Because so many of us are living from beliefs we don't realize we're carrying. Things like, if I can't do it perfectly, why bother? We all know the perfectionist, right? Or I always fail, so why even start? I'm just really bad at consistency. I have no self-control. I'll never really change. I've tried before and it never lasts. And if those are the thoughts quietly running in the background, then of course, healthy habits feel hard because your behaviors almost always follow your beliefs. And this works in all parts of our life. So before you try and fix your habits, I want you to ask yourself a few things. The first is, what do I keep saying to myself about my health? This would be a good one to write down so you can reflect back on it later. And maybe even just carry it with you through the day. And every time you have a thought about your health, write it down. Just write it down. And then you can look back at it and see what kind of self-talk you're having with yourself. The second question is, What do I believe about myself when things get hard? And then the last question is, what story am I repeating? Because you cannot change a mindset that you are unwilling to notice or acknowledge. And sometimes healing starts with honesty, not judgment, not shame, just honesty. And we can't start to fix things or start to improve things if we're not honest about where we're starting from, right? So, we're going to talk about why the small wins matter so much, because this is where the habit science gets really encouraging and exciting. So, most people think change happens through a dramatic action, a big decision, a hard reset, a total overhaul, or, you're like, this is the last straw, I've hit rock bottom, whatever kind of big, massive event you think starts this change. But the brain actually learns best through repetition and reinforcement. And that's encouraging. It doesn't learn through intensity, it learns through repetition. This is one of the reasons small habits are so powerful, because every time you complete a small habit, your brain gets evidence that says, I'm someone who follows through. And that matters more than people realize, because habits are not just behaviors, they are also identity builders. Every time you make your breakfast instead of skipping it, every time you hit your water goal for the day, every time you go for a walk, every time you prep a healthy lunch, you are casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. And I know that sounds simple, but it is deeply powerful and encouraging and hopeful, because the body and brain respond really well to consistency that feels safe and repeatable. So, back to our mindset. We are going to replace identity based defeat with identity based hope. This one is huge. A lot of people don't just say, I had an off day. They say, I'm a mess. I'm lazy. I have no discipline. I just can't do this. Do you hear the difference? One describes a moment. I had an off day. The other becomes an identity. And when you make your struggle your identity, you stay stuck there. So one of the most powerful mindset shifts, I apologize, you can make is this. Instead of saying, I'm just inconsistent, try, I'm learning consistency. Instead of, I always fail, try, I'm practicing how to come back quicker. Instead of, I have no willpower, try, I'm building new patterns one choice at a time. That may sound simple, but it is not small, because the words you repeat become the environment your habit grows in. And if you want healthy habits to grow, they need to grow in a healthier internal environment. And this is where I want to bring in the nervous system piece, because this part of habit change that almost no one talks about, and it matters so much. Sometimes people don't fail at habits because they're lazy, actually, most of the time. They fail because the plan they created is too overwhelming for their nervous system to sustain. And I know that might sound a little surprising, but think about it. If you go from no structure to, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., I'm going to meal prep every week, I'm working out 6 days a week for an hour, I'm drinking a gallon of water every day, I'm cutting out sugar and gluten and dairy and carbs all at once. It may sound healthy on paper, but to your nervous system, it feels like chaos. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? It's too much, too fast. And it's when the body feels overwhelmed, it tends to seek what's familiar. Not necessarily what's best, but what is familiar. And that's why people often snap back into old patterns not because they didn't want to change badly enough, but because the new pattern wasn't built in a way that felt sustainable and safe to your nervous system, to your body. And that's why I'm such a huge believer in gentle, repeatable change. Because your body tends to trust what you do consistently, not what you do dramatically. So if you ever wondered why you can follow a plan for 5 days and then completely shut down, sometimes it's not a motivation problem at all. It's a regulation problem. Your system is overloaded. And what it needs is not more pressure, it needs more support. And this is where we stop asking, what is the most I can do? And start asking, what can I do that's repeatable, that I can do consistently? And this question changes everything. So, this next part might be my favorite part of the whole episode because I think it's one of the most transformative mindset shifts in health and can also work in other areas of your life. A lot of people live in the language of trying. I'm trying to eat healthier. I'm trying to work out more. I'm trying to drink more water. I'm trying to stay off sugar. And I understand why we say that, but over time, that language can keep you mentally stuck in the beginning. Because trying often sounds like I'm attempting this, but I don't fully see it as who I am yet. And the longer you stay in trying, the harder it is to embody full change. At some point, for habits to really stick, there has to be an identity shift. From I'm trying to become healthier, let's move to I'm becoming someone who takes care of my body. That's very different energy. And when your identity shifts, your choices begin to align with that identity more naturally. Not perfectly, but more consistently. This is also where faith can be such a grounding part of the process because when we really believe that our body is a gift, that it was created with intention and purpose, that it serves us every single day in the way God intended it to, then health stops being punishment and starts becoming stewardship. Not punishment, but stewardship. And that changes the whole relationship we have with our bodies. Because instead of saying, I have to do this, you begin to say, I get to care for the body God gave me. And that shift is powerful. You may even need to practice this mindset before you feel it. Most of the time, confidence comes after repetition, not before it. Mindset works in the same way. You don't wait until you fully believe the new thought before you start practicing it. You know, the whole fake it till you make it kind of thing. You practice it while it still feels unfamiliar. That's how it becomes real. So maybe at first it will feel awkward to say, I'm becoming someone who takes care of their body. Maybe part of you doesn't fully believe it yet, and that's okay. But you're going to keep practicing it anyways. I find it really helpful to put a sticky note on my mirror when I'm getting ready in the morning or on the coffee pot to just those positive affirmations that we want to start speaking into our life. You are beautiful today. Right on the bathroom mirror because you all are beautiful. Or, you know, I am going to nourish my body today. Put it on your coffee pot. If you don't want to be so philosophical, maybe write, eat your breakfast. I will eat my breakfast today. Put it on your refrigerator. Those little things, the more we say them to ourselves, the more true they become because we're incorporating a new thought process. New mindset patterns are built the same way habits are built, through repetition, not through perfection. I look at that "you are beautiful today" message on my mirror some days and I'm like, yeah, right. But you know what? I read it every morning, every single morning. So now let's talk about the part that almost everyone needs at some point, and that is how do you restart after you've fallen off? Because if we're being honest, this is where a lot of people get stuck for way too long. Not in the falling off itself, but in the shame that comes after. They miss a week, they feel behind, they avoid it. Then a month goes by, the guilt sets in. They're thinking, well, I've ruined it completely. And I want to say this as clearly as I can. You are never one off week from being back at square one. That's not how it works. One hard week does not erase progress. One hard month does not erase growth. And one setback does not mean you failed. Honestly, it means you're human. None of us are perfect. And one of the healthiest skills you can build is the ability to restart quickly without making it dramatic. No, I need a whole new plan, or I'll just wait and restart Monday, or I just need to get my life together first. Just what is one thing I can do today that reconnects me to the version of myself I am becoming? That's so encouraging. That's such encouraging, great self talk for us to give ourselves. Maybe it's making breakfast. Maybe it's going for a walk after dinner. Maybe it's drinking water. Maybe it's putting protein on your plate tonight. That's how you restart. You don't have to wait for a new day, just a new moment. Don't guilt yourself. Don't punish yourself. Reconnect. And honestly, the people who succeed long term are not people who never fall off. They are the people who have learned how to return without shame. That is the skill, and that is the work. And that is available to you. So let's make this really practical. If you're trying to build healthy habits for life, I want you to think smaller and more foundational than you probably ever have before. The habits that change health long term are often not flashy, they are simple but powerful changes. Things like eating breakfast with enough protein. I want to challenge you. Um, for those of you that don't eat breakfast this week. I'm not going to tell you what it has to be or anything like that. Just eat something for breakfast. Start that metabolism. Get that cortisol down first thing in the morning. For those of you that do eat breakfast, I want to challenge you to make your breakfast 30 grams of protein. Get 30 grams of protein in your breakfast. One small, simple habit. It's going to start your day out wonderfully. Do that for 2 weeks. You're going to feel amazing. Drink enough water. I'm not a naturally thirsty person. I don't drink a lot of water. I have to intentionally make myself drink water. So put that sticky note somewhere. Drink your water, drink your water. Remind yourself. I am a person who hydrates my body. Walk or exercise regularly. Go to bed a little bit earlier. Keep nourishing food in the house and not bags of junk food. Take a pause. Say a prayer or meditate or just touch grass before stress eating. Or drink a big glass of water because a lot of times we're not hungry, we're thirsty. And get back on track without spiraling. Those are life-changing habits. And when you stack enough of those together, they create completely different quality of life. So all those things I just listed, don't do all of them all at once. That's going to overwhelm the nervous system. Pick one and do it for 2 weeks. Make notes on how you feel. Mental notes, write them down. Those of you that keep a journal, I think a journal is a great thing because you can look back and be like, oh, what happened on these days when I felt really exhausted? Oh, well, I didn't eat my breakfast. Things like that. And none of these things are overly exciting or dramatic, but they are repeatable. And you can do repeatable things. So before we wrap up today, I want to give you a little preview of what we're talking about next week. Next week's episode is called Microbiome and Mood, the Gut-Brain Axis Explained. And we're going to talk about your gut and how it can influence things like your mood, anxiety, inflammation, cravings, and even mental clarity. It's such an important conversation, and I think you're really going to love it. And if today's episode resonated with you and you want some practical support in actually building habits that work in your real life, I do have free resources and recipes available on my website at www.nourishwithregina.com. You can also learn more there about my coaching packages if you're looking for some one-on-one or group coaching work, more personalized support. And of course, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Nourish with Regina. New episodes of this podcast drop every Tuesday at 11 a.m. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from this episode, it is this: you do not need perfection. You need consistency. And consistency is something you can build. One choice at a time, one habit at a time, one return at a time. Until next time, keep nourishing your body one simple choice at a time. Bye.